There's kids who come and really aren't engaged or don't want to participate. When I say don't want to, it's like they're not able yet to grasp what happened. And by the end of the day, they're sharing and they want to share those pictures, or they come up and they are excited to show their family the craft that they did.
Welcome to Better Together podcast, produced and directed by Our Hospice of South Central Indiana, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to making every moment count. We will share true stories about hospice, palliative, and personal care services that we provide in 22 counties all over South Central Indiana. I'm your host and president, Steph Kane. In the studio today, I have with me Melissa Clark. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Melissa is a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Camp Eva, which is a children's grief support camp, really honoring the memory of her infant daughter, Eva, Juliana Clark. Melissa and her family established Camp Eva in 2016, so more than a decade now in Columbus, to provide children who lost someone that they love a supportive place to connect, remember, and learn about grief, and really simply be kids and have a lot of fun. Melissa, before we talk about Camp Eva, would you share just a little bit about your journey and how our hospice became part of your story?
Sure. So, as you said, our daughter Eva passed away in 2013, and it was very unexpected. At the time, our oldest was 8, and we have twin boys that were 5 at the time, and it was very hard for them to understand. And then being a social worker, obviously, I wanted to find ways to make my grief more meaningful. It was a very hard time for me personally. And so in 2015, I joined our hospice as a volunteer in the bereavement department. And I made bereavement calls and visited with patients. And then in 2016, I founded Camp Eva as a way to help other kids and families have an outlet for their grief and to understand that they're not alone. And then in 2017, I'm so grateful that our hospice jumped in and is now part of their annual services, and it's been such a great partnership to have.
You know, I was estimating how many kiddos came through the camp, and I understand there's typically between 20 and 25 kids, which is a perfect size. You can have small groups. You can come back as a large group.
Right.
But that's almost 250 kids or more.
And we do have some kids that come back.
Yes.
That it's just such a great time for them that they come back, sometimes just 1 year or 2 years. But they look forward to the camp and they ask about it and they want to come back because it's a time that they're able to really share and remember in a really safe and loving environment and have fun.
It's one of my favorite summer, it marks the summer, really, my events that we have. I know my son Doug and I both served. He is really great at taking a small group there as well. And we have a similar journey. We lost a little baby daughter as well named Shannon. And so through the years have learned, about that journey. And so we share that. What are your hopes for the children, Melissa, that come to Camp Eva, maybe their families? What do you hope they experience?
Yes, our hope is really that kids and families come and experience, especially the kids, that they come and they realize they're not alone, that they learn about grief and about emotions and do some really fun activities like different crafts or different physical activities with trained leaders who spend time also talking about their loved ones, but then they connect with other kids and they hear other kids' stories. And they realize they're not alone. And so they leave the day with physical things they've done to remember their loved ones that they take home, like a memory jar or a stepping stone or something like that.
Can I just share something that struck me when you were leading this group of kiddos? It really stayed with me, where you had them bring something so they could do almost a show and tell moment.
Yes.
And something that would, they could do a show and tell and share about their loved one that they lost, and how matter of fact and how courageous these kids were. And that happened at the end of the day, where after those activities, they felt safe. They knew that they're not the only one.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest impacts of Camp Eva for me, is when these kids, a lot of times, a few of them or several of them come in and they're reluctant. They don't always completely understand why they're there or they're not ready to share. And by the end of the day, they're lining up to share and show their pictures or their teddy bears or their photo books or anything that they've brought. And their hands are up and they're just ready to share by the end of the day. It's very valuable.
There was one little girl who, it's a hot day, but I remember she came in with a flannel shirt. It was a big flannel shirt. And I asked her about that. I was like, tell me about this shirt, because I guessed it wasn't hers. And she said, that was my mom's. And so it makes me feel close to mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful to see how the kids kind of transform throughout the day and engage in the activities and really get interested in what they're doing and start sharing.
For those listening, can you help us understand maybe how children process grief different than adults? Is there something there that in your experience?
For sure. Even like when you attend funerals, it's not unusual to see little kids running around or playing or not really participating fully in the funeral like we do as adults. And that's just they're not really able to do that. So children tend to grieve in bursts. So we see it throughout their whole life. It's different at developmental stages for kids, for sure. Young kids, may regress in their behaviors. They may start thumb sucking or baby talking is big, bedwetting, getting really clingy or having separation anxiety. So you might see that happen when someone significant has passed away. Older kids, you might see some actual behavioral like outbursts, anger, regression in school, struggling with intense sadness or depression. And it comes and goes throughout their whole entire childhood and life. And that's just how they process the grief.
There were so many cool activities that helped children understand how to express their grief and maybe strategies that they could, use.
So part of the camp is giving them tools they can take home and use. And we talk about that throughout the camp, in the beginning specifically and at the end specifically, like what they've learned, and really start to relate to it and have those ideas. Yeah. And I think the important thing with kids too is like we can feel happy and sad at the same time. They tend to sometimes look really, really happy when something tragic has happened, but they still need to have times where people are intentionally reaching out to them and asking them if they have questions or how they're feeling, because children don't always know how to do that or aren't able to recognize that they need to do that.
In the past 10 years, you've seen many children, come through Camp Eva. And so without any personal details, I'm just curious, like, what have you witnessed that really shows the impact that our camp has on
Well,
kids?
like I said, we have kids that come all different ages, 5 to 12. And a lot of times there's kids who come and really aren't engaged or don't want to participate. When I say don't want to, it's like they're not able yet to grasp what happened. And throughout the day, the kids, they play and they're usually with similar aged kids, and the leaders do a great job of getting them active and getting them engaged. And by the end of the day, they're sharing and they want to share those pictures, or they come up and they are excited to show their family the craft that they did. We do splatter painting most years, and it's about just using colors to express your emotions. And just watching some of the little kids really get into that, it's really powerful because that's a way to non-verbally express their feelings.
If there's a family listening today and wondering whether Camp Eva might be right for their child, what would you want them to know?
Well, I would want them to know that if they have questions, they can reach out to me personally.
How can they reach you?
So they could reach me at our email is campeva4kids@gmail.com. And we'll have a flyer that'll probably be going up very soon on the hospice website that also has other information about how to reach me. It also has the information about how to apply. And so if they have questions, they should reach out, because we really do work to be flexible and tailor the day to specific needs of each child. And so we have information before we start camp. And if I have questions about that, I always reach out to the families too.
Do the parents stay at camp, just a clarification, or did they drop off?
Yeah, typically it's a drop-off. We find that works really well with kids. So what they can expect is when they come, they'll be greeted by volunteers. They'll get a T-shirt for their child. If they have any questions, we'll answer those questions. And then their child will be with a specific leader the whole entire day. And so once their child is with that leader, the parents are welcome to leave, and then they come back at the end to pick up their kids in all of their activities.
This is Better Together, a podcast dedicated to making every moment count. Thank you for listening. Please like us and share on your social media channels. If you have a question or you'd like to learn more about a specific topic, you can find us at ourhospice.org or call 812-314-8083. Until next time, remember, life is short. We are better together, making every single moment count.